Welcome, friends, to another edition of the DPZ show and a very fun series we're kicking off here called the Grail series. And with me, I have Cardboard Chronicles Josh from the Card Lighter team. So thanks for being with me, Josh, today.
Hey, man. Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be on for your first guest.
Yeah. First guest. We're starting with LeBron, and obviously you're a big LeBron collector. And we've had back in the day, we had the collector series, and you came on and walked me through a lot of these really great cards, and told me the stories behind why they were, where the provenance behind the card, and all of that. The point, the genesis behind this series was the Cajun cardboard had a really cool. Well, it's kind of, there's two things. There's two reasons, two inspirations, the impetus for this series, and one was Cajun's walking through all the grails of Michael Jordan, and he had 3 or 4 parts. And I thought that was fascinating, really cool way to educate a non-Michael Jordan collector on the important cards for Michael Jordan, the ones that collectors seek. And then there was Stacking Slabs Brett talking through the parallels, and he had you on for the goal, though kind of walking through all of those different cards. I find it fascinating, and I think it's fun for people to kind of learn more about a different player, collector base, different sets, different cards that hold like a significance in the hobby, and especially to that collector base. So thank you for saying yes to this and kicking us off with LeBron James. So I guess what are your thoughts? Okay, so when you think about a Grail, I'll kind of use this as the starting point. When you think of a Grail, and you talk about this a lot on crossover, and probably whenever you're talking about cards, Grail comes up. What is a Grail to you?
Yeah. First of all, I think it's relative kind of to each person. Some people, like myself, I'm not able to get like the 101 LeBron. So those would be like a Grail for somebody, but probably not for me, just because it's like absolutely unattainable. So it's like something that is within reach and something that is possible for you to obtain in a reasonable amount of time. And we kind of probably overuse it. Like we probably say like, oh, we get like a Grail mail day like once every couple months or something. And I think the true definition is that it's like one card, if you look up the term Grail. But for us in the hobby, I think we kind of use it for like just a really big card that's coming into your PC that took a lot of work or a lot of consolidation or, a couple months of savings or whatever. And you're kind of working towards this like one thing. And then you can kind of put it in your PC and then kind of start over. So in my opinion, you can have a few. So, each person has their own list, probably top to bottom of like the top Grail down, like where the cutoff is to non-Grails. I'm not sure. It's probably different for everybody.
Right. Do you think value, Josh, factors in? Does it have to be a valuable card, or does it have to be a rare card too?
Yeah, this one's been a criticism of mine recently where people are like saying I talk too much about like expensive cards and I should be focusing on like other things. But I mean, the price really is like baking in the demand of the card, meaning how popular it is. So I feel like value is like the easiest way to do this, just because it's just the best indicator for where the demand is, for where the most people want this thing. And that usually indicates, the ranking or hierarchy of where these fall. If you look at Cajun's list of his Michael Jordan hierarchy, like it's hard not to like look at the value because it is kind of top to bottom. You could pretty much put a dollar value, and it's like it is very linear. So I think it ends up working out that way, and so we might as well not ignore it.
No, I think it's true. I mean, if it's in demand, if there's an obscurity and a rarity to the card, plus a demand for it, most of the time because of the obscurity and the rarity of the card, but I think the provenance, the importance of the card, it just you put all those things together, more people are going to want it. And if you're a serious collector, you're going to need to have it. So there's going to be a demand, and obviously we know basic economics. Because I have a couple cards, these King Griffey Jr. cards that are rather obscure, very rare. They're fun to talk about. I mean, the story is really cool, but nobody really knows because they're so rare and obscure. Not a lot of folks know what the card is. So the demand's not there. So even if I needed to sell it like right now, I'd probably take a haircut, or there might not be a ton of demand for the card.
Yeah.
And it's still a rare card and an important card, but it's not in demand. So the price is reflected. So I agree with you completely. That is actually really important. I believe. And I think that there needs to be a distinction there. Right? If it's a liquid card that sells all the time, I don't know if that's the provenance really probably isn't there because people are willing to sell it and let go of it. People that get it and don't want to get rid of it, hang on to it for dear life. I believe that's another, qualifier in my opinion. Like nobody wants to get rid of it. Like it's the last card they're going to sell because I don't know if I'm going to get it back.
Right.
So
yeah, it's probably like some intersection of rarity and value, but rarity is an input into the calculation of what the value of the card is. So like price usually the best example I can think of is the starting five Michael Jordan. Like Brian just like didn't know where to put that card because excuse me, it's numbered to 5, which is insane for 90s Jordan cards. It's like, there's not that many 101s and I think it's the only one numbered to 5. So it's just like insanely rare, but there's no demand for it because it looks exactly like the base. There's tons of fakes out there because it looks so similar to the base. It's easy to fake. And so it's not really seen as a grail in that community because of all those reasons I mentioned, but it is out of 5. So, you could kind of say maybe it is a grail because it's just so rare. I don't know.
That's those are the weeds I like digging around in. As a collector and as a hobbyist, those conversations, those debates are actually to me fun. They make the hobby interesting, that back and forth. Is it really a rare card? It's numbered out of this. Is this really an important card? And that dialogue and almost watching a card become important too. Sometimes you can see it mature to that status too. I think it's kind of fun. And it makes it interesting, especially within a collector base, because I feel like with some of these collector bases, I know I talk about Griffey so much. I love King Griffey Jr. and that's why I like them, I'm passionate about it. But you get this like community, this collector-based community of really, really great people. I posted something the other day about a really great collector that, just honest, class act. You get to meet all these wonderful people within that little community, this little niche community within the hobby community. And I feel like that's a special place too, right? People looking out for you and cards and know what you're looking for, what your grail card would be, is exciting. So with all that being said, LeBron James, in my opinion, is one of the most collectible players in the hobby period. I think I would say, my show is, the series is going to be highlighting, I believe, the most collectible players. I mean, Ken Griffey Jr. could be debatable. I'm going to obviously lean there because I'm biased, but I think it's undeniable Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, LeBron James are going to be, in my opinion, the top 3 most collectible on most people's list. So, LeBron James. Why LeBron James for you?
Why LeBron for me? He's my favorite player, most simply. I was born in '88, so I grew up around the time, like my teenage years were when LeBron was coming up into, and coming into his fame through high school. And so I remember watching him on TV in those high school games and just thinking like, man, this guy is going to be really good. And he's just going to be very exciting. And I kind of was drawn to it immediately, just how much more athletic he was than everybody else in high school, like the high flying dunks, the passing, just kind of the whole package. He was very good. And then started following him early in his NBA career, followed him all the way through. And I stuck with him through all the sort of like playoff struggles, when the Celtics bounced him and the Pistons had trouble with some of those teams. And then, he got to the Miami and he struggled with his first year in the finals there and then finally got over the hump. So I feel like I just kind of followed his whole career and was like there for all of it. I've seen every playoff game he's been in. I've probably watched the majority of his regular season games, or at least seen the YouTube highlights of every game, the recaps. So I've just always been drawn to him. I like his style. The mixture of like the dunking and athleticism plus like the intelligence, I think is something that's really set him apart. We've had a lot of like big time athletes come through the NBA, but they usually don't pair it with like this, clutch gene and intelligence that we've seen from, very few guys, frankly. You're talking like the Kobes and the Jordans in the past. So to mix it with his athleticism, I think it's just been kind of a once in a lifetime type player. And, I don't see how you could not put him top 2 all time, just given the analytics and the stats and the longevity and, the popularity, like all this stuff that goes together. So he's just always been my favorite player.
Yeah, he's pretty special. I think that, and that's why he's so collectible, right? People want to collect players that they admire, that they feel a connection with. or two, and enjoy watching and enjoy everything about them, right? So
Is he the only active player on your list of?
is there any active player on my list? Oh man,
Well, your list of your guys that you named, like I think he's the only active player, right?
I think so. I think if you're thinking of hot, I mean, I like to put Wayne. I'm having Jeremy Lee come on and talk about Wayne Gretzky, but I just don't know if his base is that big. I think he's even more of a niche collected player. It's hard to go outside of those three. You got a lot of, people like Shaq, people like collecting, I don't know if there's any Kareem Abdul-Jabbar super collectors or Wilt Chamberlain super collectors. I just see a lot of Kobe. I see a lot of Michael Jordan. I see a lot of LeBron. And I personally see a lot of Ken Griffey Jr. because I'm in that community. May not be, I don't think he's in that top three, but it just kind of, you can three and then four, maybe Griffey, and then it kind of just trails off from there where you got a lot of different people. Active people, I think Luka's got a pretty strong base. I think Luka does. I think Patrick Mahomes. I think he'll end up being a very collected. They'll have the super collectors. Like Mike Trout's got a pretty good, but he's kind of waning, but he still has a pretty big base. There's a few people, but not a lot. It's small.
When you're talking the list that you're talking about, like I'm sure you have Brady on there, but like this small list, it takes a long time to get to that list. Like you need years and years of people collecting you and kind of having a long fan base built up over a long time. So it's a good list.
Yeah, it's a good list, and I feel like if you're going to spend any considerable amount of money on a card or color up or capitalize stuff you have in your collection to collect a player, it needs to be someone that you feel is going to matter to you. First and foremost, it has to matter to you. It's not just picking whoever, but it has to matter to the hobby too. I mean, if you want to be feeling comfortable spending that kind of money, it needs to be a player that I feel like has the ability to sustain. Obviously, there's some security in Kobe. He's no longer here. Nothing crazy is going to happen. I mean, Griffey's pretty safe in the sense. He's a pretty good guy. Who knows? Or you never know, right? Never know. LeBron. I mean, he's very savvy with the current environment with social media and all that stuff. He kind of knows how to navigate that landscape pretty well. So I feel like he's pretty safe in that sense too, and he's kind of out there. Michael Jordan, he's pretty quiet. There's elements of people you're like, okay, I don't, because you're when you buy these cards, you're also buying this person's lifestyle, decisions they make, things they do. You have to factor it all in, and I mean nothing's perfect, but those guys are pretty special. So when you got back into when you think about LeBron, when you think about his best cards and his Grail cards, the cards that matter the most to that collecting community and to the hobby community overall, how many of those cards exist in your opinion? And not the one-of-ones that you talk about, I get that. Walk us through some of these cards that you feel are those cards for him.
Sure. Well, I took a stab at creating my own little hierarchy once Brian made his. So I can screen share some of those, and I have a couple pictures of some super rare top of the top grails that I don't own. And then I guess when we get to some of mine, I can just show what I might have with me. Let me share.
Yeah, okay. I think these lists are fun for the hobby, and I think that's what makes this kind of exciting too. Is that you're still putting together a list, even though it's a grail. There's going to be some debate over whether some cards are more important than others. See, I guess I'll put this. I have to add it to the stage.
Oops, can you see? Can you see?
Yep, there it is.
Okay, so to me, this is the number one grail for LeBron. This is the 2003 Ultimate Collection Logo Man Auto, and this is the horizontal. There's also a vertical version of this card, which could be seen as the other. It's like they're probably pretty equal. Probably people might prefer the vertical. I personally like this one better. It's graded a PSA 9. It's sold publicly a few years ago, like before the boom. It sold in 2016 for like 300 grand. So this to me is like the ultimate top of the list grail. And I know Brian didn't put one-on-ones on the list, but I think you kind of have to at least acknowledge the one-on-ones. And I mean, this is something that like I'll never own. I know who owns this card. He's not selling it. So this is something that we can all just kind of aspire to. Like this is the top of the top. I mean, Bob Amtrak, I would consider to be the best LeBron collector. And he doesn't own this card. So like even he isn't able to kind of get to the very, very top. But this to me is like the one card. It's just, the Logo Man Auto RPAs are really seen as like the primary card for any modern rookie. And so to have this as like, the first year they did it back in 2003 is for the rookies is, it's a pretty insane card.
It's really cool that you know who owns it. I always think that's another really cool piece to collecting is the community you're in. You know who owns certain cards. Like, a friend of mine, Joey, he always says, I know where all the bodies are buried. Basically, I know where all these cards are at, right? And so you know who owns the card. It's pretty cool. And you know who this great collector is that still doesn't have it, so it kind of gives you this, well, if he doesn't have this card, then how's that going to be? Yeah, that's cool.
Or if, I find out somehow through the grapevine that he's selling it or he's selling cards, like, I'd probably be the person who takes a stab at it. Like, here, take all my cards or sell everything I own and own just this one card. Like, I would make that trade. I would trade every card I own for this one.
I would do that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Because then nobody could top this. Like, I'd have the top of the list. And then just kind of going through, there's a few, I took a stab at a list, but I don't like looking at text, but like, here's kind of my list. I did order them I put the non-101s, but like, you're pretty much starting at the top with the RPAs. And there's lots of examples of that. It sells quite a bit, but like, you're basically talking about the 2003 Exquisite RPA, and there's two copies. There's two versions. There's the gold parallel, which is numbered to the player's jersey number. Mm-hmm. So for LeBron, that's 23, and that's this card. And then there's also the base, which is numbered to 99, and this was his jersey number 99. So this, those two cards, I think most people would probably prefer the gold parallel to 23 just because it's more rare, but they're pretty similar in value. And they sell semi-frequently because there's a decent amount of copies, but the demand is always extremely high for this one. Because if you have money and you're looking to buy a nice LeBron card, this is usually where you start. This is kind of the top of the heap. I own a 99 copy, not with me, but I do own one of those. So put that bias out there.
Yeah, the patch out there, that's okay. I mean, you're a super collector, so you're going to be biased, and that's perfectly accepted. And that's actually preferred for this series. For these cards, Josh, tell me, when you think about a Grail card for LeBron, is there like, okay, serial numbering gets tricky because there's lots of different, you got two different kinds that have two different parallels that have different numbering. To you, from a pop standpoint, how many are out there? What is rare to you? Obviously, 1 of 1, we get that, but is out of 5? Is it out of 10? Does it matter? Or in your opinion? What is considered low pop and rare?
I talked about this briefly on the parallel series with Brett. I think it depends on the era because the older the card, the higher the serial number actually feels like it's a lower serial number because these cards were not as sought after back then, and they got lost or whatever. The printing issues, But today I would say it's like 5 is rare, 5 or 10, like gold prisms, kind of the cutoff 10. Yeah. And for this era that we're talking about here, like 2003 era, I tend to say it's like out of 25 is rare.
Okay.
So I usually stick to like out of 50 and under. It's kind of like where I like to stick because some of the stuff out of 50 that I collect, I go for like PSA 10s where the pop will be like 5 or 6 and under. So that's kind of my sweet spot is like out of 25 rare or out of 50 PSA 10 type stuff. And then for this, so out of 99 is like, it's not that rare, honestly. Like it's not, these cards are not hard to find.
Got it. Okay. But
they sell pretty frequently. I mean, you can just look like, I think one of these hits PWCC or Golden basically every month at this point.
I'm a huge 90s nerd, you know that. So in 90s, what is considered, does that number go up for you for 90s? Is it out of 50? Is it out of 75? Or is it out of 100?
Yeah, I think it's out of 50 in the 90s just because like, the PMGs and the rubies out of 50, those cards are hard to find. You know, like I collect Penny Hardaway of that stuff, and it is hard to find. I've only seen a few PMG Championship Penny Hardaways, and like the green PMGs out of 10, I've seen like 2 of them. So it definitely seems to be a percentage of the modern that you actually see from the 90s, and it seems like it's like 40% less. 40% of what you see today, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I feel like out of 100, if you're a 9 or a 10, PSA 9, PSA 10, it kind of builds in a little bit more of
Right.
the obscurity to the card or the rarity of the card because you're building into the grade. And with some of those cards, they're so condition sensitive. Higher grades actually help it out more than it would be in the modern. So
Yeah.
that's a whole other rabbit hole we can go down. We'll just leave it there. But very cool cards. I mean, those are the like flagship cards for his collector base, I imagine. Those two different
Yes.
variations. So.
And then next, I'd probably go to the Topps Chrome Gold Refractor. These are out of 50. The PSA 10s sell for a ton. This one sells semi-frequently as well. I think one sold, a 9.5 sold on Golden recently. And there's some other Exquisite cards I'll get to that sell for more than this. But I just, like today in the modern, you've got like your RPA, you got your Logo Man and your Black Prism 1-of-1s. Then you've got your Gold Prism out of 10 and your RPAs out of 99. And the same kind of applies 2003. So you've got your Gold Refractor instead of Gold Prism out of 50, and you've got your RPAs. So this one's a big card for LeBron. I own a PSA 8 of this. I can show that after I finish the screen share. I've got a few of these with me. But I own a PSA 8 of this guy.
Low pop? Is it low pop PSA 10, Josh?
It's a pop 9.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot. Not a lot at all.
So that one's a pretty sought after card. And then look all these RPAs. It's like this. So many RPAs make up this top list of all-time sales.
Does it feel like it looks like the gold doesn't sell nearly as often? I mean, one to every 20 sales in the gold. Right?
I'm also sorted by price. The RPA sells for a decent bit more in value.
Gotcha. Okay.
Here's an interesting one. 2012 Gold Prism. I would say this is a grail. There's only 10 of these. First year of Prism. A lot of LeBron collectors. This is a really sought after card.
This would be a grail. Wow. Just because it's first year 2012 and then first gold Prism card. Yeah.
It's only sold publicly one time, and it was for $570,000. So yeah, it's definitely a grail. Wow. Let's go back to my list here. I've got 2003 Finest Gold Refractor at a 25. I also own one of those, which I can show. And then I have these near the top. These are like the inserts from Exquisite. So these are all rookie cards from LeBron's rookie year in Exquisite. The first year of Exquisite, there's a bunch of inserts. So like limited logos is one. This one right here. Mm-hmm. This is a really popular card. This one's out of 75, so not super rare, but it is more rare than the RPA. And then the other one is the number pieces. So this one is out of 23. They're all numbered to the player's jersey number.
Wow.
So this is one of his more popular ones. This PSA 8 sold for $475,000 this year, post kind of crash. So this one still has a lot of demand.
Do you feel like, Josh, you can go 1, 2, 3, 4? You talk about the 1-of-1, obviously. You have to put that as number 1, even if it's impossible to get. And then 2, 3, 4, 5, you kind of go down the Exquisites, and then you jump into the gold, the 303 Gold Refractor out of 50, and do you slide in that Prism right after that gold, or does that jump the gold? If you're going in down number, but does it just kind of go however you want to sort it out for the rest of them, or is there a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
There's 3 1-of-1s that stick out to me at the top. There's the vertical RPA, Logo Man, the horizontal, and there's also a Credentials 1-of-1, which sold a few years ago on eBay for a lot, but it was a big to-do because a couple of people were trying to get it, and the seller sold it privately, off eBay, I think, and it turned into this kind of who has it? People don't know, but there's a Credentials that's a 1-of-1 for LeBron from his rookie year, and that's got to be near the top as well. And then it's the gold RPA to 23, then the RPA to 99, and then you probably get into the gold refractors and these on that next tier. So I think we're kind of in the 7 to 8 range right now.
Got it. Okay.
I've seen these black refractors sell for insane, but these are at 2021 prices. These cards are out of 500. I don't consider this to be a grail, to be honest, but they do pop up every once in a while in these big sales. This is another gold refractor. I own this one as well. I actually own a PSA 10 of this. I'm lucky to have that, but this is his Bowman gold refractor. So he's got Bowman, Finest, and Topps Chrome from his rookie year. Those are like the big three gold refractors. This one's out of 50. Chrome is out of 50. Finest is out of 25. I'm sure I'll get to a picture of Finest soon. This is probably considered a grail. Another one that shows up a lot is 2003 Ultimate Collection. This one is out of 250, and there's no patch. It's just autographed. But this is definitely a grail for a lot of people. I've owned that one in the past. It's just not rare enough for me anymore. Like they're out of 250. So there's that. There's the, look how much low this is in the list of all-time sales. Just because it sold in 2016, it's like the 50th highest sale for LeBron. It's crazy. It would crush every record.
It would probably destroy any. It would set a whole new market for him.
I own an RPA and a bunch of these golds and all this stuff. I would, like I said, I would trade all those for this one card. So that kind of tells you where I pin the value.
Yeah. You got some nice
Here's
cards.
a picture of the Finest. I own this one as well. I own this in a PSA 9. But this is the Finest.
That Finest is my favorite set of all time. Easily.
Yeah, this one's popular.
I love that brand. I love it. I think there's so many cool cards throughout the years. Big fan, especially the 90s Finest. The embossed stuff they had. And just gorgeous cards.
And this one's got like the gunmetal texture on the top, It's just this is probably my favorite card that I own. Like if I had to just ignore the value and just like pick one, it would probably be this one.
Let me look at it. I mean, it just pops right off.
Sure.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Are you able to show me as well? Or do I?
Yeah, you're in the corner. Yeah, you're in the corner right now. So you can,
okay, cool. Well, I could have
shown, and there it is. Look at that.
Yep. So this was my like number one grail for a few years, and I finally was able to get one. And I bought it in 2022, so you can imagine I paid a lot.
But see, I like what you just said, though. Again, we talk about this, and you've talked about it, and I want to make sure people that are watching this episode hear it. It took you a few years to get it. Not a few days, not a few months, not a few weeks, the years. Like you had to be in the hobby for a while to actually persevere through the hobby to get it. You cared enough about it. You didn't want to get, you probably picked your time. It doesn't come up for sale in the wild very often, so you had to be ready to go when you saw it. There's all those different things that factor in. I mean, but it took time, and that makes it way more enjoyable and satisfying. And you're probably not going to sell that thing unless you want to move for the one-on-one, right?
Yeah, I think you're kind of like honing in on the importance of the term grail. It's like, is it a grail if a super rich person can just come along and like just easily get one? Probably. It has also this like mixture of, like you're saying, it's hard to get it too. Like one, you have to find it. You have to time it where when you do find it, you have the funds available, or you can like be in a good place where you can sell stuff to get it. Like it has to be difficult, right? It has to be like, you can't just get it. You can't just like get your paycheck, buy the card, and now you've got a grail. It's got to be like, no, this took me months of planning, years of planning, shifting things around, painful decisions of selling stuff I didn't want to. Like it has to be hard to get it. So that's I like the way that you described that.
It's just it makes it more meaningful, right? I mean, I think we want to put together meaningful collections of these players, and the cards have to matter. And you're gonna have to let go of some stuff you'd rather keep to get it. But I also feel like, you can have all the money in the world, just buy whatever you want. That's great, but it doesn't make it as special when you've like boiled it down to like for you, you'd go, I get that one-on-one and take all these wonderful cards I love just to hold that thing. Like I don't care if I only own this one card. That's the card. And that to you would mean all of this stuff that I've done the past however many years of buying, selling, to arrive at that card for you would probably be like the top of the mountain. Like you probably don't know how you'd feel holding the thing. That would be like monumental for you.
Yeah, I think about like, what if Jeff Bezos came to me and he was like, hey, I want the best LeBron collection that exists. What do I do? I'd be like, it's impossible, but we can't buy you nice LeBron cards. You can move into the top 10, I could help you get there, but it's like, oh, you'd have to become best friends with Bob Amtrak, and you'd have to convince him to sell you his collection. That's the only way. Or like find the guy who owns that vertical logo man or the horizontal. You're basically having to like befriend people who own the best stuff already and pry it out of their hands, or just like offer them $1 bajillion. Like that's your only option. Jeff Bezos like reasonably could not own the best Michael Jordan or LeBron James collection, even if he really wanted to, because he's just not like he just wouldn't be able to find them, or he's not gonna want to overpay 100x to like pry him out of people's hands, etc. Like it's just not feasible. So that's kind of the point of collecting to me is there's always someone above you. There's always some collection better, and there's always somewhere to strive to and improve your collection.
And there's nothing wrong with that. That's the other thing too. This is a space where we can celebrate, like this show is doing with all these folks that are going to be coming on, celebrating these wonderful collections they have and the knowledge they bring about their collective base. That's exciting. You know the guy who has this Bob Amtrak guy, like him, and like we're talking about him, and what a cool feeling as a collector to like be known as a guy that has X card, right? To me, that's I geek out on that whole thing. I'm the one who has this card, and there's me and this guy. Me and Marco have this one card, Vicio Jr., and he's big time super collector for Griffey. And him and I both have the 2 versions of this card, and that's it. And it's like cool little we have this little brotherhood over that. That's fun. That to me makes it so much more rewarding than just buying whatever. And then I'm right down my alley.
Yeah, I'll probably have to just like at some point of this stream like scroll through Bob's Instagram, because he has like all the 101s from like Topps Chrome and Finest and Bowman, and he's got the 2 2013 Prism Black 101s. There's 2 from that year, and those are like the first ever Black Prism 101s LeBrons. He has both of those. Those would be grails. It's like there's so many cards, especially the 101s, that creep into these lists that you almost just, a lot of people are just going to like move past them because either they don't know where they are or that they exist. It's like, or your list just becomes a bunch of 101s, so like people generally lean into, okay, these are the ones out of 25 and 50 that are possible to build a really nice collection. But there's always someone that has like all the 101s where it's like, oh yeah, that guy has all the 101s. Those are the real grails. We're sort of fighting for second.
Yeah, second's not bad. You have some really great cards though. So
I also have the 03 limited logos with me.
Oh, that's a beautiful card.
And then here's I don't know if I showed this. Here's the 03 Chrome Gold out of 50. And then here's the Finest, which I showed. And then I have the Bowman Gold out of PSA 10.
Those are nice cards. You know what I like about those patch cards is that you have the only one that's like that.
True.
That's what I love about patch cards. You own even if it's made out of whatever, you still own that only version of that patch. I love that about patch cards. It makes it rare in that sense. Very unique.
eBay 1 of 1. Okay, here's another insert from 2003 Exquisite. This is emblems of endorsements. This one's only out of 15. So this one is like super low serial number, very, very tough to get. A couple have sold at auction recently for a lot, including this one, which sold in September for $268,000. So this is another one that's up there for sure. And you can kind of like see we're kind of like seeing the same cards over and over at this point. Here's like a 1 of 1 from 04 Exquisite. This is an interesting card. So this is a 1 of 1 right here. Second year Exquisite. More limited logos. Some like Panini logo mans are up there. There's a lot of those. I've always liked this one. There's a SP Authentic Rook Auto that are out of 500. And there's also the gold parallel out of 50. And that's what this one is. So this one's pretty popular. Yeah, then you get into like his black prisms from Panini, 1 of 1s, his gold prisms. He has a horizontal ultimate patch auto. I don't own this one. So this would be like the parallel to that vertical one out of 250. This one's out of 25 and it's horizontal and it has a patch on it.
Nice.
So that one's pretty cool. This one's sold a couple times. There are some like random non-rookie logo man autos that he has, including this one. The auto on this one's kind of stinks, so it's like doesn't sell for as much as it probably could. But there are a few of these floating out there. He has a lot of like dual logo man autos as well with like MJ and Kobe. I don't count those for this because I only count LeBron only cards. I don't know how you're gonna run that in this series, but that's how I do it.
That's preferred. That's preferred.
And I think we've kind of seen most of these off the rookie list, to be honest. Like, we've looked at most of these. And then I kind of went into the non-rookies. Let me see if I can find his Titleist. His second year Exquisite. He has a lot of Exquisite cards that are going to pop up on this list. But he has one from his second year. And it's called Titleist. And it's out of 3. So I would definitely consider this a grail. It sold for $150,000 in August of this year.
Wow, look at that! How many cards have sold for 6 figures?
So many.
It's like so many.
I was joking with Chris once that Justin Herbert has 40 public sales over $100,000. 40.
That doesn't make sense.
And so it kind of puts it in perspective just how much money is actually spent in this hobby, even on the prospects and the young guys. So like LeBrons and Jordans, those guys have tons of cards that sell for more than $100,000.
It's amazing to me. Well, that's to me why it's hard to argue those two. I mean,
yeah,
those two and everybody else, really, in my opinion.
And then I kind of started just like listing off his Exquisites and gold refractors and X-fractors from his like years immediately following his rookie year.
Yeah,
it's like 2004 to 2009 range. You know, the licenses were with Topps and Upper Deck, so that you'd see a lot of these. Like, I'll show a couple actually. I have a 2004 limited logos. These are up there for sure. These are out of 50, so they're not super rare, but pretty popular.
Nice patches. So when you're looking at picking up your cards, Josh, like these patch cards, what is it? Tell me about your checklist or your prerequisites. What do you need to see in a patch card for it to like qualify for you to spend money on it and buy it?
Yep. Well, it's usually the auto first. Like it has to be either a perfect auto or really close to perfect. I don't care about faded autos or streaky autos. I'm looking for like the best autographs and then patch. I would say most people will probably lean towards the patch over the auto. I prefer the auto quality. But a lot of people really want like the nice 3-color, like this one, for example. People like to have the multiple breaks, the multiple colors showing.
Right.
So that's usually, obviously you'd like to have the best of all of them. So that, like to your point earlier, it does kind of create this like internal rarity on some of these cards where if there's 50, 10 of them have bad autos, 20 of them have meh patches, and then you've basically got actually 20 that are good within that. And then after that, it's like condition. So I don't really care about condition on those cards, but if you wanted like, a BGS 9.5 with a perfect patch and a perfect auto, you're looking at like 1 to 2 copies total in that range. So you can get pretty rare with that stuff.
No, you can. You can dial it in real easily.
And then some of the more popular Exquisites. This is 2009 number pieces. This one's out of 23. And then 2008 limited logos. This one's out of 23. These are pretty popular. 2007 limited logos. People really like limited logos Exquisite because the patch windows are usually big. And it comes from like the actual logo from the team jersey. So those are usually really popular.
No, that's cool.
Yeah. I mean, now we're kind of getting into like the gold refractors and the gold prisms and stuff like that. I can probably, that's going to cause infinite stuff. I can probably like go through Bob's Instagram, but I didn't get permission from him to do that. But like, the other type grails that I haven't shown or talked about are like the 101 Paninis and the 101 super fractors from these years.
Yeah. Well,
those are definitely like the top.
Yeah. I definitely respect Bob and his page and all that, but it's a nice idea. Maybe we could point people to that page. It's private. So
I think it's public. Bob M Track on Instagram. He's just scroll to the bottom. He's got all the best stuff.
There you go. So folks, scroll to the bottom. You can check out some of the better stuff. So like you said, Prism 2012 Prism 9.5 BGS 9.5. That's still a grail. But after that, you get into a lot of the golds and a lot of these different inserts that you still value and see as important, having provenance grails, right? That's kind of where that conversation comes in. Where's that cutoff, Josh, for you? for Grails for LeBron?
Well, for me, like the ceiling on what a grail is has kind of raised over the years. Like a lot of the stuff, a few of these, like I wouldn't consider them grails anymore. Like they might have been at one time for me, but since I've like consolidated several of those, what I would consider previously as grails into like a higher up card, like this, the grail term is kind of like constantly moving away from me, and it's like this moving goalpost. So for me currently, honestly, it's probably in like, it has to either be like a rookie exquisite or like a some insane rookie card that's really rare, or like a super fractor or like a black prism. Like those to me are like the current grails. With like the ultimate being like the one of one rookies. Those are like the big time grails for me at this point.
You made a very interesting point as the goalpost keeps moving further away from you for a Grail. You know, I remember looking at my PC and I've got about 15 cards that I've consolidated into. I feel really good about. And out of those 15, I think at one point I was like, well, I think I have about 4 or 5 Grails. And then I talked to my buddy Rodney, and he's like, I don't know. I mean, that one right there, these two, a lot of people consider these 2 Grails, but I think, you know, unequivocally, you have 2 right here. These are, you know, I think most people would agree, and it kind of boils down to me. I'm like, well, I've seen this card sell too much, so I don't know if that's a Grail. So then I thought, I think I have 1. So it went from like 5 to 1 to I don't even know if I have 1, and I don't know, man. I also think there's nothing wrong with that. I think you're always reevaluating your cards, and you're looking at them and going, all right, well, is this really that important of a card? And you know, so it's that whole collector mindset, you know, but it's that being honest with yourself, going, all right, what do I have that's truly desirable? I was going to do this. I kept thinking about doing it, and then I just decided not to. I was going to do a little story vote deal, or I'd put the cards up and go, okay, if this card gets fire, then I'm going to give it 2 points. If this card just gets a like, I'm going to give it 1 point. I'm going to find out how in demand the cards I have are truly to my all these people that I know, and all these friends I have on Instagram. Like, I'll find out for real how popular these cards are, or how unpopular they really are. So total honesty, you know, it's not about just what I want to tell myself, but what's real. And I keep thinking of doing it, and I don't. I'm like, yeah, who cares? I'm like, wow, I'm really interested to know. So I go back and forth a lot. But I get messages on certain cards that I've shared in the past, and I kind of figure, okay, I've gotten a handful of messages going, hey, whenever you think about selling that card, let me know. I'm like, well, that's an indicator that that's a card that's in demand, people want. And then you get cards where people just are like, yeah, that's cool, but I didn't know about that card. That's one that's probably just always going to be with me.
Right.
Interesting observation there on that goalpost. So,
yeah, well, if you asked me 10 years, you know, like 5-10 years ago, I would say these are all grails. But now today, I'm like, like you, I'm like, maybe I only have like 2 grails. Like I need to sell a bunch of these and move them into like, so I can have a 3rd grail or something. You know, I'm always thinking about those moves. That's
exactly what I was going to say next. I'm like, so it opens up the window for you going, well, this isn't really that big of a deal. I could probably get this card back. I'd much rather have X card because that would add to my grail. It's like my 2nd or my 3rd. So these ones, you know, you start convincing yourself it's okay to move out of 1 or 2 or 3 to get that card. It's just fascinating as collectors. We just keep going back and forth. But that's kind of the way it is, you know. What's fun about it?
Yep, trying to climb the mountain, trying to like have the best. I would, man. I wish the owner would come to me with that horizontal logo, man, and be like, trade your whole PC, because it would be so. I would just do it in a second. I wouldn't even think about it. I'd just do it. I mean, I think the values aren't even that close. Like he'd probably be getting destroyed in that deal. He wouldn't actually do it, but like the sentimental value I've built up in what I have, still I'd trade them all.
Still, you'd do it. Well, you're basically putting it out there, my friend. You're like throwing it out there into the ether. Like, here, I'll do it.
He's probably got all these cards anyways.
Yeah, right. I mean, who knows? Some of these guys, they just like, again. It goes back to how hard it was to attain all the cards. That journey to getting the PC you have now, and curating the cards you have now is meaningful, right? It wasn't just easy. If you could just go buy everything off the street, that's simple and it's easy. It's not exciting. It doesn't mean as much. And as collectors, I think that's something that people need to be reminded of. It's okay to wait. You know, it's okay to sit back and like wait for these cards to come, and they'll come out again. Or, you know, it is tough. You know, when you finally get that. When you finally see that one card that's been eluding you is finally there, it's up there, or they're asking way too much for it, or it's going to auction, and you're like, I'm strapped right now. That's painful, but it is what it is. You just kind of have to bite the bullet sometimes and wait for it to come up again, depending on what card it is. Well, thanks a lot, Josh. It's been really fun. Definitely a lot. I've learned a lot about LeBron. I always do when I talk to you. And I hope folks out there watching and listening gain some insight on the grails for LeBron. And obviously, there's going to be some, dissension on what cards are grails. That's fun. That's fine. Josh, I'm sure will be in the comments, responding to any questions anybody has, or maybe a stack ranking that other folks might have. But either way, it's still really cool. Those are beautiful cards, sought after cards, and the 1 of 1 is amazing. It's just crazy to think some of those cards are actually out there that none of us ever touch, but they're there. We know they're there, and because we know they're there, it just, I don't know. We just can't not know they're there anymore, right? Because you know that they exist. So,
well, thanks for having me on, Dennis. I'm excited to see all of these. I think it's a great idea for a series, and I'm excited to see the other top collectible guys and see what those grails are.
Thank you. Yeah, we're going to be following up next week with your buddy Chris and Cajun. We're going to do a duel
for Jordan. Nice.
And we got Spinatron and Adam Gray are going to be lined up to handle Kobe, so that'll be fun. And I think we got Jeremy Lee for Gretzky, and 1956 Tops guy is going to be handled Mickey Mantle. So nice. Your favorite baseball player.
All right.
Well, sounds good. Thanks a lot, Josh, for joining us today. Everybody, you know where to find Josh on Instagram and everywhere else. Card Ladder, go check it out. Great program. I have it. I use it. Had it for years now and love it. So, yeah, thanks for jumping on, and enjoy the rest of your day. And like and subscribe, all the stuff. You guys know what to do. We'll talk to you all later.